Since our thoughts, our thought patterns, and our beliefs create our life experiences, it becomes important to recognize when our thinking becomes distorted. This series explores the terms and thought patterns from Section 6 of our Spiritual Nutrition. By learning to recognize these patterns within ourselves, and by realigning our thinking with divine truth, we can begin to stop repeating the learned patterns that create negative outcomes. And gradually, we begin to experience greater peace in our lives. In this set, we will explore 4 related thought patterns: bullying, despair, gossip, and greed. These patterns may look very different, but each can involve our relationship with power, control, security, and self-worth. Bullying attempts to gain power by imposing our will on another person. Despair can leave us feeling powerless and defeated. Gossip can be used to influence how others see someone and to make ourselves feel better by comparison. And greed can lead us to withhold or accumulate in an attempt to feel secure. By recognizing these patterns within ourselves, we can begin to understand what is underneath them and make different choices. Bullying, core pattern, using any force necessary to impose our will on another, especially someone who seems likely to be easy prey. In children, this can result from frustration with living in a dysfunctional family where there is ongoing yet unpredictable physical or emotional abuse. In adults, it can continue as a childhood pattern that we feel justified in repeating. How it manifests. Bullying can involve intimidation, threats, humiliation, ridicule, criticism, exclusion, aggression, manipulation, or physical force. We may target someone we perceive as weaker, less confident, or unlikely to defend themselves. Sounds like, "I'm going to make you do what I want. You're weak. You deserve it. They won't stand up to me. I was just joking. You're too sensitive." Spiritual effects: chronic anger, arrogance, condemnation, contempt, a desire for control, lack of compassion, and an inflated sense of power or superiority. Bullying can prevent us from recognizing the fear, hurt, insecurity, or powerlessness underneath the behavior. Physical effects: chronic stress and physiological arousal, tension, headaches, digestive problems, sleep disturbances, elevated blood pressure, and other stress-related symptoms. Origin of the pattern: bullying may develop from experiencing abuse, unpredictability, humiliation, fear, or powerlessness. A child who cannot control what happens within the family may learn to regain a sense of power by controlling someone else. Change the pattern. Meditate to understand the underlying hurt or insecurity. Learn to recognize the desire to control or intimidate before acting on it. Ask, "What am I trying to get from this person? And why do I believe I have the right to impose my will on them?" Practice assertiveness rather than aggression, and remember that other people have their own choices, boundaries, and agency. Despair, core pattern, feeling defeated and hopeless, and unable to admit that we are angry and frustrated over circumstances that may be beyond our control. How it manifests: giving up before exploring other possibilities, withdrawing from life, assuming nothing can change, or becoming passive rather than recognizing the choices that remain available to us. Sounds like, "What's the point? Nothing I do will make any difference at all. I give up. There's nothing I can do. Why even try? I have no choice. Spiritual effects. Being able to feel only a narrow range of emotions. Despair can keep us focused on powerlessness and make it difficult to recognize the anger and frustration underneath the hopelessness. Physical effects, abdominal pain, addictions, digestive, skin, or sleep disorders, and obsessive compulsive behaviors. Origin of the pattern. Despair may develop when we repeatedly experience circumstances that feel beyond our control and conclude that our choices cannot make a difference. Anger and frustration may remain unacknowledged because admitting them can feel unacceptable, futile, or unsafe. Over time, feeling powerless can become a habitual response. Change the pattern. Meditate to learn the underlying reason for feeling powerless. Ask, what am I angry or frustrated about that I believe I cannot change? Identify what is truly beyond our control, and then look for what remains within our ability to choose. We may not be able to change the circumstance, but we can recognize where we still have agency. Gossip. Core pattern. We use gossip to share our negative opinion of, or make up lies about, a person or group who has offended us, so as to negatively affect others' opinions of them and make ourselves look better. We participate in gossip when we spread, listen to, watch, or read negative stories about others. How it manifests. Talking about someone's faults, mistakes, behavior, relationships, or personal circumstances when they are not present, especially when our intention is to damage their reputation, gain approval, punish them, or make ourselves appear superior. Sounds like, did you hear what she did? I probably shouldn't tell you, but don't tell anyone I told you. At least I'm not like her. I'm just telling the truth. Spiritual effects. Difficulty building or maintaining friendships, chronic envy or jealousy, and low or unstable self-esteem. Gossip can reinforce judgment, condemnation, self-righteousness, and the need to feel superior. Physical effects. Obesity or overweight, teeth, mouth, or gum issues, upper respiratory infections, and lots of choking. Origin of the pattern. Gossip may develop from low self-esteem, envy, jealousy, or need for approval. It can also become a response to feeling hurt or offended, giving us a way to seek revenge or influence how others see the person who upset us. Change the pattern. Meditate to learn the reasons for our low self-esteem. Then do the self-esteem exercise. When we feel the urge to share negative information about someone, pause and ask, why do I want others to think differently about this person? Practice seeking truth and understanding rather than judgment, criticism, or condemnation. If something genuinely needs to be addressed, communicate directly with the person involved rather than recruiting others into the conflict. Greed, core pattern. A seemingly irresistible need to withhold our possessions from others, whether money, material items, relationships, love, or even knowledge, in order to manage the pain of emotional wounds or as a form of revenge. Greed can also be feeling fully justified in wanting more than we can possibly use. How it manifests: hoarding money, possessions, information, attention, affection, approval, or opportunities. We may accumulate more than we need, resist sharing, give conditionally, or use what we possess to control or manipulate others. Sounds like, my needs are more important than anyone else's. I might need it someday. I don't want it, but you can't have it. Why should I share what I have? I deserve to have more. Spiritual effects: a constant need for more, a chronic craving for an unknown something, and corruption of our motives. Greed can shift our attention away from appreciation and generosity and toward accumulation, possession, control, and deprivation. Physical effects: eating disorders, and a cluttered lifestyle, including hoarding and pet hoarding. Origin of the pattern: receiving too little or too much of the things we most wanted as a child. Feelings of deprivation, being ignored, or being neglected can lead us to believe that we must hold tightly to what we have in order to feel secure. Change the pattern. Meditate to learn and resolve the reasons for feeling deprived, ignored, or neglected. Ask, what am I afraid I will not have enough of? What am I trying to protect myself from by holding on to this? Practice recognizing the difference between having enough and needing to accumulate more. The goal is not to give away everything we have. It is to understand why we feel compelled to withhold or accumulate, so that our choices come from truth rather than deprivation, fear, control, or revenge. Final notes: how these patterns connect. Bullying, despair, gossip, and greed may appear unrelated, but each can be a response to an underlying emotional wound or belief about power, worth, security, or control. Bullying says, I need power over you. Despair says, I have no power. Gossip says, I can increase my position by lowering yours. Greed says, I must hold on to what I have or get more in order to feel secure. At the center of these patterns is an opportunity to ask, what am I believing I need in order to be okay? Do I believe I need power over someone? Do I believe I have no power? Do I need someone else to look worse so that I can feel better? Do I believe I will not have enough? The healing direction is to recognize the underlying thought rather than simply reacting to the behavior. We can choose assertiveness instead of aggression, recognize where we still have agency, seek truth and understanding instead of damaging another person's reputation, and learn to distinguish having enough from the fear that we will never have enough. When we can see a thought clearly, we have a greater opportunity to choose differently. Bullying says, I need to control you. Truth says, you have your own choices, boundaries, and agency. I can express what I need without imposing my will on you. Despair says, nothing I do will make a difference. Truth says, I may not control the circumstances, but I can recognize the choices that are still available to me. Gossip says, I need others to see this person the way I see them. Truth says, I can seek truth and understanding without controlling another person's reputation. Greed says, I need to hold on to this or I will not have enough. Truth says, I can understand the fear beneath my need to withhold or accumulate and learn what enough means for me. As control decreases, respect increases. As hopelessness decreases, agency returns. As judgment decreases, understanding becomes possible. As fear of deprivation decreases, generosity becomes possible. And as we recognize the thoughts beneath these patterns, we become freer to choose differently.